Goodness gracious, sakes alive, thanks for stopping by. You're traveling with Iris and Rose. Today we're going to be visiting the Carl Sandburg Home National Historic Site. We did not know a lot about Carl Sandburg when we first visited the historic site. We knew he was a writer and a poet, but had never read any of his books. We saw this site on our National Park stamp book and decided to check it out while we were traveling through North Carolina. It's a beautiful area of North Carolina. It's in the hills, which is beautiful. The only problem is we must hike uphill to the house. You can see the house in the photo on the top across the pond. It's going to be a long hike. The trail starts off paved. There's a pavilion area with some intro info on Carl Sandburg and also restrooms. I highly recommend taking a restroom break before taking the hike up to the house. There is a map in the pavilion area of the property, and according to the map, it's about a half-a-mile hike up to the house. I can tell you that it seems a lot longer than that when you're out of shape and also in the rain. Glad I brought my umbrella. There are a lot of hiking trails out here that would be nice on a sunny day. We did read the information here to give us a better idea of who Carl Sandburg was. He wrote the Lincoln biography, many books of poetry, and he wrote folk songs. He won 3 Pulitzer Prizes, 2 for his poetry and 1 for his biography. He's originally from Galesburg, Illinois, so he grew up in the Midwest, lived most of his life in the Midwest. His parents immigrated to America from the north of Sweden. He lived in Michigan when he purchased this property. He purchased this property in 1945 and moved here from Michigan. And they lived here until his death in 1967. And here's that map that shows the property, shows how far it is. It's a half-a-mile hike up to the house. Seems a lot longer than that, though, but we are, like I said, very out of shape. Plus, it would be nice on a sunny day. There's other hiking trails that I think I would enjoy taking. This is the scenic bridge. It goes over a small dam, and on one side of the bridge is a waterfall where the water's flowing down from the pond. The other side's the pond. It goes down into a creek. It's a very pretty little bridge. This is where the trail starts to turn into gravel, and it started raining pretty good too when we were going through here at this time. Along the trail there are some benches where you can sit down and take a break. Only problem is when it's raining, you're going to get your pants wet if you sit down. Once you finally make it to the house, there is a door under the porch that leads to the gift shop. And that's where we got our National Park stamps. We bought some gifts in the gift shop. Rose got a book. I got my magnet that I always get for my refrigerator, and also got my grandmother a keychain. If you're planning on taking the house tour, make sure you have cash or check, because that's all they accept for the house tours. They accept credit cards for gift shop purchases, but only cash and check for house tours. For adults, it's $5 each, and there were different prices for children, seniors, and active military. So you might want to check out the website to see what those prices are. Rose and I were the only ones on this tour. We thought we videoed the tour, but apparently the GoPro was on time lapse. So you get a photo tour of the inside of the home instead of a video tour. Some of the photos are taken from the time lapse on the GoPro, and some are taken with my camera. So the house is set up like it was when the Sandburgs lived here. And as the tour guide was giving us a brief overview of Carl Sandburg, he mentioned that the Sandburgs lived in Michigan from 1928 to 1945. Rose and I found this very interesting because they lived in the Dunes area on the southwestern lower peninsula of Michigan. And Rose and I visited this area on our trip to Michigan a little over a year ago. We visited Indiana Dunes National Seashore, and we went through the area the Sandburgs lived, but we did not realize this at the time because we really didn't know anything about the Sandburgs at that time. So if we ever go back through there, we're going to have to try to find the home that the Sandburgs lived in. This room was his office, and it was full of many interesting items. This is a plaque he received for an article he wrote on the Chicago race riots from the NAACP. He was very involved in civil rights. Also in this room, there was a table that was made from beams that were in the White House when Lincoln was chief executive. The beams had been removed in renovation in 1927 and made into a table, and they sent that to Carl Sandburg in 1939. There were several items laying around on his desk and other areas that were really interesting. And this picture on the right hand side, that's the table I was talking about. This is Carl Sandburg's death mask, and there's also a poster of Abraham Lincoln's death mask, which I found kind of creepy. I did not realize that they did death mask. Check out the old typewriter. It's what they used before there was computers and keyboards and all this technology. A couple of more pictures of Mr. Sandburg's office, and then we're going to go into Mrs. Sandburg's office. Lillian Sandburg, she raised prize-winning goats, which was one of the main reasons for them moving from Michigan to North Carolina. They needed more room for the goat herd. She kept records of all of the goats in these cabinets. And the goats that are now on the property are actually descendants of the original herd of prize-winning goats that she raised, thanks to the National Park Service for bringing them back to the property. The dining room was the gathering place, even had a TV in the corner. Mrs. Sandburg did not like curtains because she loved to watch the wildlife, so she did not have curtains on any of the windows around the house. When Carl died, Lillian donated the house and furnishings to create the Carl Sandburg Home National Historic Site. She did not include the goats, but like I said before, the National Park Service managed to find descendants of the original herd, and they now live on the property. Stay tuned for part 2 of this video, which will include our walk to the barn and to visit the goats. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Please hit thumbs up to let us know you liked the video, and also subscribe to our channel.